making it.
Return to my soul.
Oh,
Return to my soul to Lambo burning.
god damn. What's up everybody, Swank Squad here, dropping another video to show off my favorite Warframes, the builds I have for them, and how I like to use them, or the strategy I use for them. Hopefully this will help some new players, and possibly some old players who are interested in the Warframe, but not too sure how to go about it, how to use them, or how to build them. For these videos, these builds are specifically for my playstyle. This is what I enjoy using on that Warframe, so you can copy it, or you can kind of tweak around it if you like. If you're brand new to the channel, go on ahead, hit that like button, or you can go ahead and hit the dislike button. That's fine too. We'll try to tweak the video that helps you enjoy the video as best as possible. And if you're really brand new, you want to get more of our content, go on ahead, hit that subscribe button. It helps us out big time. So let's get started. So for today's video, I'm going to be dropping down MESA. MESA is probably my second favorite Warframe, right next to Ivara, if anything. Reason why I like her primarily is because of her Peacemaker. Her Peacemaker really dish out a lot of damage over a pretty large area if you can move that camera fast enough pretty efficiently. I mean, it's auto aim. All I gotta do is hold that button down, depending on the button you have, hold that button down and she'll just shoot like crazy. I think she's really fun to use as well. She's not necessarily a tank. You can kind of say she's an armored car with her Shatter Shield. You activate Shatter Shield, you have the right strength on your MESA, you can definitely negate some of that damage, which helps out a ton. But in those endgame missions, I mean, at some point 95% damage reduction doesn't really do much, but it still helps for sure. Her shooting gallery is pretty good too. You definitely use shooting gallery to, you know, maybe blind some enemies really quick, stagger their weapons. It works really well for infested sometimes too, and if you're using the Peacemaker. Her ballistic battery, it's pretty good. You can go on ahead and get one bullet out really strong. Me personally, I like to activate ballistic battery, use Peacemaker until I stack it up to about 100% of its damage. Then I activate it again, go back into Peacemaker, and then bam, knock off one shot. I mean, it does decent damage, but for the hassle of it, it's not really worth it, but still a pretty good ability to use. Overall, I love using Peacemaker all day. Shatter Shield helps big time, Shooting Gallery helps big time, so she's just a really fun Warframe to use for me, and she looks pretty cool. She kind of has this bandana around her head and kind of has one eye poking out. I think that's pretty cool. So for my first build, like with all my other Warframes, I'm probably going to run max efficiency because I love using their abilities. Their abilities are always really fun to use. So definitely going to go max efficiency here with my first build. Some pretty good duration, not the best duration you can possibly go, but enough to get you by. I mean, 77%, it's not too bad. I definitely go a little bit of strength. I mean, I don't want to go crazy in strength because I definitely want good duration, good efficiency, but enough strength, 55% for your Peacemaker. It still does pretty good because it scales off of your secondary weapon now, which is really cool to do. And the range, it's not too great. It's a little bit below average, but it was enough range to help Shooting Gallery a little bit to, you know, spread those bullets to jam the guns at enemies really quickly. Still pretty good. The efficiency is okay, duration's okay, strength is okay. Overall, it's just kind of my balanced build. The range is a little bit above, below average. It was not as great as I'd like it to be, but it's decent enough. And if you wanted to give yourself a little bit more strength, you can go on ahead. If you have the Excellence mod, you can go on ahead, take out your Cunning Drift if you have that there, and go ahead and put in Power Drift. Sometimes I do this where I want to just dish out the extra 15% damage. It doesn't do much, but it's enough to at least get you by. For my second build, I'm definitely going to run a duration MESA, so I'm definitely getting some pretty solid duration. Obviously not the highest you can go, but I definitely like to get in that 200% range to kind of give you double of what it could be, and not as much efficiency as I'd like, but 50%, knock off all that power calls, about 50%. It's not too bad. I mean, and I like to use a Nerd Focus, which gives you that 4 energy per second once you activate it, so it helps out a ton. And for this build, I pretty much just use Shatter Shield the whole time, and I have some okay range, about a quarter of more of what it is, so it's a little bit above average, not as much as I like, of course, but it's definitely enough to kind of get you by the mission and quickly blind and jam those enemy guns, which really does help, especially in those longer missions. And if you have Shatter Shield, that gives you some good duration, you're pretty set throughout the mission. And the strength isn't as high as I'd like it to be. I mean, if the strength could be 299%, that'd be cool. Can't do that for this build, unfortunately, but 40% is good, so I'll activate Peacemaker every now and then just to have a little bit more fun, to kind of mix it up if I'm bored using my Soma Prime for so long. So this is my second build, definitely some good duration, some okay efficiency, decent range, and enough strength to get you by. And last but certainly not least, I definitely like to go with range Mesa. Range on Mesa, it's actually not too bad. It's pretty fun because with their shooting gallery, that energy, or whatever you want to call it, spirit energy, kind of flares out pretty far and gets those enemies kind of in almost an infinite loop of a jammed gun, even the infested as well. It works really well to your advantage. Unfortunately about this build, I either picked to go with efficiency or to go with range. So if I wanted to drop out efficiency and go on ahead and put a stretch on here, you can go ahead, find your stretch wherever it is. My stretch is way over here. You can put stretch and it gives you a lot of range. It gives you some okay duration, but unfortunate part, the efficiency is a little bit lax. For me, I'm using abilities all day, and sometimes it's just stressful when you're running out of energy. I mean, if you have the energy pads, go for it, but I don't really like to use my energy pads like that unless I'm in a desperate situation of where I'm facing a level 150 bombard and he's killing all my health and energy. I got hurry and refill. But overall, this build is definitely pretty fun, and like I said, like with all my other builds, you can definitely take out your Exilus mod and put in for another Exilus mod. Unfortunate for this build, if you could take out your strength and to put it in for something else, it would drop your shatter shield under that 95% damage reduction, which isn't too bad for lower level missions, but if you're in those higher level missions, you definitely want to get to that 25% range to help you out some. Like mentioned earlier, her Peacemaker, it does scale off of your secondary weapon, which I think is pretty cool that Warframe DE does for the game. They sort of add an extra push or extra oomph to the abilities, and it'll scale off of a particular weapon, like Yvar with the primary weapon, and now MESA with their Peacemaker, and a couple other Warframes with their melee weapon. But I think it's pretty cool. It definitely scales off of your secondary weapon, so this is the build that I primarily like to use on my secondary weapon. Of course, with all of my builds and mods, definitely find the one that works for you. This is the one that particularly works for me, so by all means you can copy it if you want to. That's totally fine. I will not get mad or sad about it, but this is a particular build that I like to use, and it works out pretty well for me. I like to go with crit chance. I mean, I want to knock off those crits as fast as I can, and definitely give some extra strength as well, which isn't too bad. And like with any other build for your weapon, you can definitely mix up those elemental mods to give yourself a certain proc chance if you wanted to. So the main way I like to use MESA, I always have Shatter Shield active for all my builds. That's number one on my list. I like to use Peacemaker to kill a large amount of enemies fairly quickly, and I'll pop Shooting Gallery every now and then to help myself with crowd control. But Shatter Shield is probably going to be your number one ability that you want to use the most, especially if you have the correct build on it. So for my first build, it's really good for Exterminate. You can knock out those enemies pretty quickly. Exterminate missions, they don't get too high in level, so you can knock them out fairly quickly. It's okay for survival missions. Sometimes it gets a little bit stressful in the end game. Assassination missions, it's okay as well. Some assassination targets are kind of annoying to shoot when you have a Peacemaker active, so it can be a little bit stressful too. Interception missions, not too bad. If the map is too big though, that's when you're kind of not as used as you could be versus a smaller map. For my third build, it's really good for defense, mobile defense, or rescue. You can throw that in there. Anything where you need to protect a teammate that's close to you, or an objective, anything that's really close to you, and the enemies have to get fairly close to do damage to it, because you can have your Shooting Gallery active to really have those enemies in an infinite gun jam loop for infested or for any other projectile enemies. For the second build, it's kind of good for any of missions that you'd like to do. It's a duration MESA, so you're kind of in Shadow Shield as long as you can, and you're using Shooting Gallery as long as you can too, so it definitely helps for just about any mission, but obviously the particular builds help for particular missions. But the second build that I showed you, it's pretty much useful, for me anyways, for any kind of mission type. Overall, MESA is a pretty fun Warframe to use. She can clear out enemies really fast and looks pretty cool doing it too. She has abilities that can protect her, and she has abilities that can provide some crowd control. Unfortunately, like with a lot of other awesome Warframes, she's heavily RNG focused. You have to wait or trade for those Mutalish as V coordinates, build the key, and then run the mission however many times it takes. So what I found easier, did some void missions, farmed some prime parts, sold the prime parts, and then just bought MESA. My next video, I'm probably going to be looking at Excalibur. Excalibur is actually pretty fun to use. He's not really endgame, but he's still pretty fun. So, hope you have a swank day. Hope to see you in the next video.